Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of somewhere in Ohio.
What the truck, Andy?
Yeah, off of I-70 somewhere, where our good friends at Coaster Studios has posted a picture today of some orange track on the truck bed going eastbound on I-70. And it has been confirmed by them that this is Chance roller coaster track, that if you may recall, Coaster Studios went out there and did a little video at the Chance factory and saw this track being fabricated there. So it looks a little bit different than the Lightning Run track that a few people got a little tripped up by it this morning when they saw it. But it does indeed look like a Chance track. So I guess, Danny, the question is, where is this roller coaster track going?
Well,
we know it's not Worlds of Fun.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, not Worlds of Fun. You know, they really need a steel coaster with some airtime. But so if we look at a map here, right? And now I don't recall if we know exactly where along I-70 in Ohio this was. We don't know if it's somewhere between like Dayton and Columbus in the western part of the state, or if it's somewhere between like Columbus and Wheeling, West Virginia, which would put it in the eastern half of the state. Because whether it's an eastern or western may help us figure out where it's going. Yeah. Because if it's in the western half of the state, it could potentially be going up north to maybe like a park in New York, like probably not like a Darien Lake, maybe Fantasy Island, a Martin's Fantasy Island or something like that, because they would probably take 71 up from Columbus up into Cleveland and then take I-90 up through western New York. Even like a Waldameer lies along I-90 up there. Your Buffalo Park Seabreeze out there in Rochester also lies out there. Darien Lake, of course. You could even get to La Ronde or Great Escape going up that way. You would probably head up that way, head along I-90 and then up 87. If you're going to Great Escape, or up 81 into Canada that way if you're going to La Ronde. But if you're in the eastern part of the state, east of Columbus, then you could probably rule out most of those parks in that area. And then you're starting to look at your East Coast parks that are not in western or northern New York. So you're talking your Pennsylvania parks, your New Jersey parks, and your New England parks. You know, that would be the route to get up there. Based on being in I-70 East in Ohio, you're likely not looking at any park south of Washington, D.C., Richmond area. Let's rule out King's Dominion because they just got Twisted Timbers. So if you were going to be going down that way, and Chance Rides, if I'm correct, is located in Kansas. Is that correct? So for you to get up that way from somewhere in Kansas, you would be heading out through Kansas City, and I-70 goes through Kansas City, through Columbia, Missouri, through St. Louis, up through Terre Haute, Indianapolis, and then out past Dayton and Columbus. Yeah. So they would pretty much be on I-70 all the way out. So if you were going south, some people initially thought that this might be Premier Rides track going down to Tampa for the rumored Skyrocket 2. This would not be the route you would take from Kansas. You would start heading south, probably through Tennessee and through Chattanooga and Atlanta. So you would not be on I-70 eastbound in Ohio. So I think we could maybe narrow it down to maybe one of those Western New York parks, or I think more likely an East Coast park that's either in New England or maybe Pennsylvania or New Jersey.
Well, I think the major candidates here, you know, we see the only other Chance ride that we've seen recently is at Kentucky Kingdom, is Lightning Run.
And they did one kiddie coaster, I think, in 2016 down in Arizona, a smaller coaster. But those are the only two coasters, really, that they've done in the last 10 years or so.
So this is kind of exciting to see where this ride's going to end up. You know, Chance, not a company that's worked with any of the big two yet. So Cedar Fair, Six Flags, not saying that they can't work with them. That there's a lot of rumors of a lot of new companies like S&S, you know, working with Kennywood all of a sudden. Also, rumors abound that they're working with, you know, Six Flags as well, that we've seen with the, you know, the free flies and all that. So it'll be interesting to see where this one lands, but I think there are a few parks that we can zone in on and kind of say, the first one that jumped to my mind when I saw this was Canopy Lake Park, a park that hasn't gotten anything.
Right.
In
If
a
you're going small park, I think you're looking at maybe one of those New England parks like a Canopy, or the one that I suggested was Funtown Splashtown, because they're parked down the street. Palace Playland just got 2 new coasters. Funtown Splashtown has a Wild Mouse and the Excalibur Wood Coaster. It's been a long time since they got anything big. So, that one, or Canopy, like you said, Untamed was their last big coaster, which
and that was
many years. That was many years ago now. They're Eurofighter, and that, on the smaller side. So maybe a lightning run type ride would actually be pretty good there. The Yankee Cannonball is a fine little wood coaster. I really enjoyed it. But they certainly don't have the big airtime coaster, if you will. So maybe one of those GTX type models like a lightning run would actually probably be quite a good fit there, and would probably actually draw in some folks. I think Canopy's actually a pretty reasonable decision if you're looking at small parks.
Yeah, I think either of those two would fit. But we got to keep looking, and there are some other options. If you go with the big chains, I think there's 3 real options. And a lot of people were saying Six Flags Great Adventure might be getting a coaster this year. I don't think this is the one to get for them. I don't think they need.
I don't think that this would be the type of ride they would get if it is indeed something like Lightning Run. Now, if it's something a little bigger, maybe. But I mean, they have 2 big airtime coasters in El Toro and Nitro. I don't know, unless it's a new concept altogether, which you would think we would have seen that at like an IAAPA or something before, because we've seen a lot of oddball concepts at IAAPA. It wouldn't seem like a lightning run type ride would be the way to go, especially since the single rails seem to be such a similar type ride.
I feel like this is more suited for, if it is a chain park, one of the smaller chain parks. Great Escape came to mind because they don't have a whole lot of space up there. I get the sense of that.
No, I mean they could make room somewhere. There's always rumors of the Alpine bobsled coming out.
That's true.
That rumor's been circulating for many, many years. So if they were to remove the Alpine bobsleds, which that ride is closed as often as it's open. I've been to that park twice, and it's been closed 1.5 of the times. It opened literally right before we walked out, and we got to ride it. So there's that's a weather ride, and they get cold weather up there in the early and later in the season. They're on the lake. So that's a possibility. I didn't think about that initially, but once we got discussing here, I think that's a possibility. The other one that we talked about, that just because, and we got to talk about this a little bit, just because there's been a little bit of a tease coming out of it over the weekend, is Dorney.
Dorney Park was doing something real interesting this past week. That they had a little coaster poll across their social media platforms where they were trying to get, which coaster's the best one. Finally they decided upon, of course, Steel Force being the winner. But it was interesting what they posted when that won. That they posted an image of Steel Force, and around Steel Force there are 8. Well, there's five fast lane signs around Steel Force, and then there's a trophy at the top with another 3 fast lane signs inside the trophy. And they call Steel Force the coaster competition champion. And it says, but why is Steel Force donning all of those fast lane passes? Oh, that's right. Never mind. You'll find out on National Roller Coaster Day. Stay tuned. Only 5 days to go. So this was a few days ago.
So 5 and 3. There's got to be some. There's got to be some significance to that, right? So we've got Steel Force, Talon, Hydra, Thunderhawk, Possessed. That's 5, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got the Wild Mouse. That's 6, and you've got Woodstock.
Yeah, the kiddie coaster. Seven.
So that's 7. So they have 7 coasters.
So they have 7 coasters. This would be now, and then they're also split 5 and 3. So there's no real division there, right? Because they only have one wood coaster, and all the rest of them are steel. So I don't know why they would be. It could be just as simple as they're giving out free fast lane passes, on National Roller Coaster Day. Who the hell knows? But
They're maybe they're just giving out 8 free fast lanes on National Roller Coaster Day, and it's going to be a giveaway at Steel Force, or are they going to do a Steel Force marathon or something? I mean, it seems weird. Like, hey, you're gonna find out on National Roller Coaster Day,
especially since last year that we know the whole chain announced on that day all the new stuff.
At least the coasters.
Plus, you remember, early on in this season, there was that leaked layout that a lot of people cast, dispersions on, that was supposedly a GCI. If you go back to that picture, it could be a chance layout.
But that was also confirmed as fake, was it not?
Well, so supposedly
confirmed as fake.
Supposedly, the general manager of the park, Mike Fennell, said that it was not real, and he claims that they are doing a water park expansion at Dorney this year.
So that brings up another thing about the whole coaster deal. Could they pull a page out of the Hershey Park book where Hershey Park called Breaker's Edge their 14th coaster, even though it's a water coaster? Could they go that way and call this their 8th coaster, and it's a water coaster? Steel Force won the contest as the coaster champion. So is it just in there because of that? I don't think. Does it have anything really to do with Steel Force?
I don't know. It's just something. It was something interesting that happened, and the timing of it made it more interesting. And knowing what happened last year, and knowing that there were some rumors at the beginning of this season that Dorney was supposed to get a roller coaster, threw up some red flags to me.
There's a couple of puzzle pieces, and we're not sure if they're if they belong in the same box or not yet.
Because like you said too, would Dorney even benefit from a chance coaster? That when you look at what Lightning...
They have a Morgan hypercoaster. Morgan is now part of Chance. It was Chance Morgan. They use Chance now, rides like Lightning Run use the Morgan style track now. It's very similar to the Steel Force tracks. It's got some slight modifications, but it's still very similar. And Steel Force has some really good airtime on it. A Lightning Run style ride. And again, we're assuming that this would be a ride like Lightning Run. That doesn't necessarily mean it would be. But, we don't have much to go off of there because we said they've done 2 coasters in the last decade or more here with Lightning Run, and I don't even know what the hell that other thing's called. I looked it up today, and this is how well known it is. I had never heard of it before. So it was called. So we have Lightning Run, and then in 2016 they built. It's called the Family Roller Coaster at Wildlife World in Litchfield Park, Arizona. Maybe our buddy Brian down there from Arizona knows about this one, but it uses a very different track style. It uses more of like it uses their standard like kiddie coaster style track that you see on like the Joker Funhouse coaster at Over Georgia, and like the Big Dipper at Michigan's Adventure, that kiddie coaster, and the one at Dutch Wonderland. It uses that style track, so it's not even anything like this. It's super strange. There's a couple of Cheerios being dropped here, but I don't think they all lead to the same place at the end.
No. And like I said, Dorney's a long shot that a lot of people have been asking for coasters at Dorney for a long time, and who knows when or if it will ever happen.
I think you're more likely to see this go to a small park, the Chance track anyway. I think you're more likely to see go to a small park like a Funtown Splashdown, like a Canopy. Lake Compounds, I'd probably say no. Just coming off of Phobia a few years ago. Quasi doesn't seem like quite the fit. Darien Lake just got something.
The only other place that I think might be logical is a place like La Ronde, where they just took out their stand-up Lake Cobra. That they have that huge piece of land out in the front of the park that that's right where you enter.
And the only reason that I shy away from maybe a LaRonde or even a Great Escape slightly is if you were going to put in, you know, 100-foot or so ride, why would you go chance and not just the single rail?
Yeah.
That's the holdup I'm having there. Is it maybe going to like one of the Jersey boardwalk parks? I mean,
the chance supports seem really heavy, and I guess you can put anything. Like they put Gale Force out there, so you know, like
yeah, but that's also not on a pier. That one's kind of on like the block there. It's not really on the pier. Wildwood, I don't see it.
Maury's Pier, is that too far south, or that's?
Yeah, I mean, you would get there doing that, but I don't know, Maury's. I don't know if I see the fit there or not. You know, they keep saying that eventually that GCI coaster is going to happen there. I don't think it's ever going to. They keep saying every once in a while that it will. I have a hard time pinpointing a Dutch Wonderland. No, they just got something from SNS. I would say probably not. Hershey, they're doing the expansion next year, so this is too early for that. Lakemont wouldn't be putting in something.
Lakemont's not even open.
Yeah, they wouldn't be putting in something new for their next year coming back when they're taking out rides. It doesn't.
The Nobles was another place I came up with. Like they just put an Impulse
a couple years ago.
I don't know. Did it increase their business enough where they're like, hey, let's do another one so soon? Like it just doesn't.
I feel like when we started hearing the rumors of the single rails coming out, we immediately said, hey, Silverwood hasn't gotten a ride in a while. They're right there. You know, it's a medium-sized ride. It's not great capacity. They don't have great capacity rides because they all run one train. You know, a single rail would be a decent fit at a park like Silverwood. Like that was an obvious go-to to start that discussion, and it evolved from there. I'm having a hard time finding a park that I say, yeah, you know, a chance style ride in the vein of Lightning Run would be good at this park, and this is where it definitely seems like.
I think it comes down to the first two parks we named, and that's Canopy and Funtown Splashtown. I like those two options there. I think it makes sense there. You know, the price is probably the right price. You know, so
it would make sense. It would make sense for either of those parks with, you know, some of the other competition going on. I mean, Canopy is
there's, you know, you think of like Adventureland, you know, in New York, like they just put in Turbulence. You know, that's our good friend Jeff. You know, Jeff is the king of Adventureland out there. So,
well, yeah. What about Coney Island?
Well, Coney Island has always been so tied to Zamperla, you know, all of a sudden.
Because they're run by them. So
yeah, so I would think I would think not for Coney Island just because, but I think Adventureland, Turbulence was built by who? By
Turbulence is one of the Max spinners like Sierra Sidewinder.
Okay. So like they that probably costs. It seems a little soon to be putting in a new coaster there too for a park so small.
Yeah, because that was 2015. I mean, a lot of the things were 2015 up in that area. So I mean, I think Canopy has had a long enough gap between big rides that I think they're a good fit. Funtown Splashtown makes sense because they haven't had a coaster in a long, long time. They do have a big field there between the parking lot and Excalibur. They have room to do it. I was there a couple years ago, and with Palace Playland tearing out a couple coasters and putting a couple new ones in, you know, you're probably going to draw some people there because they're advertising. Palace Playland has been advertising heavily that the new rides that they're putting in. So maybe, you know, a year later, Funtown Splashtown, it would make sense that they're going to go after that and try and recoup some of the guests that are probably going to go to Palace Playland.
Well, you know, like we said, it's pure speculation based on the travel routes of trucks on the highway. So
someone even threw out that maybe it's getting shipped overseas, but I made the argument that why would Chance has only done 2 coasters in the last like 12 years, and they've both been in the States. There and Vacoma's so big overseas. Why would anyone be overseas be doing business with Chance? I think that's a extremely long shot.
Yeah. So we know somebody's getting a coaster. We just don't know who.
And
But
it's orange.
we'll find out eventually. And I think also, if it is one of these small parks, we're not going to find out until the season is completely over because they're going to maximize ticket sales for here as much as they can.
Well, and we'll definitely do an update in a couple days here when we figure out what Dorney's doing on Thursday. Provided
I
it's
wouldn't
not
hold your breath for a coaster, though. There's a shot. There's hope. There's hope in the air. But
we may do an update just to say, hey, this is what they're doing. It's kind of dumb. We thought it might be
water
cool.
Park expansion.
No, you've 8 free fast lanes for people through the door at Dorney Park, which you don't need fast lane at.
Good. Oh, my goodness. So, as always, thank you for joining us here on Coaster-net Update. We will keep you updated on all the latest. We got some announcements coming up this week, Danny, so I'm pretty excited.
We do.
So, as always, I am Andy Robarczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Red Warriors.
See you guys.